Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how it'll impact our one. Today is a big one. We just had the Champions League happening in Fukushima, and it was honestly a big surprise and an absolute blast. We saw Lugia just won the biggest post-rotation event ever against a Arcues deck with a Alolan Vulpix. A ton of really good surprise archetypes going around in the top 8 and top 16. Definitely controlled it much stronger than we thought it would do. We will break down exactly what was the best brand new archetypes doing incredibly well. We did see the likes of Great Tusk and even Ancient Box really perform really well, especially in the top 16, plus a ton of brand new card reveals, as well as also breaking down the top 16 at the City League Championships as well. An absolute ton to talk about. Definitely the best place to be to talk about and honestly understand what's happening in post-rotation. So without further ado, let's look at some of the brand new cards got revealed that we're going to get in March over there in Japan. We saw Bloodloon Ursaluna EX, one of my favorite new Pokemon to come out, and has very good, very powerful ability as well as to attack. So the attack does the attack costs 1 colorless less for each prize card your opponent has taken. This is very similar, obviously, to Radiant Charizard, and we know exactly how good that card is here. And we see its attack for 5 colorless energies, 240 damage, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. This is basically the next replacement for like 2 Charizard. It can obviously work very well with that Vengeance Punch TM, which can be Crisis Punch TM, which can work very well, especially in the late game as well, costing 0 energies as well. I think this is a very good, very powerful archetype. 240 and even for 5 energies, yes, I know it's quite a lot, but when you go down, your opponent has to 1 or 2 prize cards. Attacking for 3 or 1 energy is just super strong. Plus 260 HP. This could be good in control for loop. There are so many good possibilities for Ursaluna EX, and I'm so hyped for it. Screamtail EX has a very nice first attack. Very much reminds you of Horror House GX. During your you can only attack if you go second and on your first turn. During your opponent's next turn, they can't play any supporters. Obviously, the translation just cut out a little bit. So honestly, that's really exciting to see. We have that destructive capability. We can play it either in a control archetype, we can play it in likes of Dialifar, or just in general some ways, really limiting the opponent from playing any supporter cards. When we think about how powerful supporters are now, the disruptive capability, even the setup capability, and like some energy acceleration we're seeing in the ancient decks as well, this could be a really good way to slow down the likes of either Roaring Moon and Ancient decks with really power of Vixada. They slow down the likes of Charizard with their Avery. So really good possibility to really slow down your opponent. Definitely a very interesting EX. Iron Thorn EX is a very nice card. I would say it's a bit an okay card, but honestly, very good things going for it. Its ability is, as long as it's in the active spot, any Pokemon with a rule box have no abilities except for future Pokemon. I really like this one, especially for the effects about everything. But this works really well. You can still use likes of Iron Crown, and the Iron Crown, if you have 2 or 3 in play, this can do over 200 damage, which is really powerful. And you get to move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench. I'm really seeing likes of the Iron Hand. You can have high counts of Iron Hands, high counts of Iron Crown, and even Iron Thorns as well. There's that good destructive capability. You can switch into it with free retreat with its the toolkit attached to it. Honestly, Iron Thorns is a very interesting good that destructive capability, what we need to have for future Pokemon. Now the card which a lot of people are talking about, Unfair Stamp. You can only play this if one of your Pokemon is knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles a hand into their deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 2. This is Reset Stamp, and it's also destructive capability. This is pretty much the saying that you need to have Bibarel to really stay in the game. Having that destructive capability, especially against a control archetype, is just so strong. Yes, we have Iono, but imagine that your opponent's only taken like 1 prize or 2 prizes, and then you all of a sudden get them down to 2 cards. They have no draw support, and it's instantly potentially won the game that way. Unfair Stamp is a very powerful ace spec. It is kind of like Reset Stamp, but like put on both sides, and as a way to say, it is unfair. I think this will see play. I think it's a very strong card. I think we're going to see it kind of like really evolve, especially in these controlling archetypes. So definitely something which I'm really kind of like excited to see, especially the development of format as it kind of goes around, especially in this new sort of set. And the rest of it, we have some very nice item cards and some supporters. Enhanced Hammer's back. I really love this card, just the Scar Special Energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This would be really powerful if you're worried about the Lostina or Roy Moon, the Mist Energy, just play 1 or 2 copies of this instantly gets rid of that one, and they don't need to worry about it, and you don't have to worry about it ever again. Perrin is a very good one. It's basically the Pokemon communication. Reveal 2 Pokemon from your hand, put them in your deck. If you do, search your deck for up to that many Pokemon you revealed, put them in your hand, and then shuffle your deck. This is pretty good, especially in the likes of Lugia, getting out some Arcues, and you can easily discard them for Ultra Balls, so I would say this is a pretty powerful card, especially in that Lugia one. Then we have Community Center and Caretaker. They kind of go together as one. They're kind of like fine cards, but out of the cards were revealed, I just thought I would cover them. Once during turn, if that player plays supporter cards with their turn, they may heal 10 damage from each of their Pokemon. Pretty nice, like extra level heal. You could play some Gardevoir, but we do have like some Moonlit Hill and even Champions Festival, which I believe is a much stronger Stadium card to play. But we do have Caretaker, draw 2. If Community Center is in play, shuffle this Caretaker back in your deck. Kind of a good way to like recycle some supporter cards as well. But as it's just draw 2, not that magic draw 3 or even draw 4, it's a little bit weak. Definitely very excited for these new cards that we've got to reveal. We'll see them in action in Japan in the end of March, pretty much in time for EUIC. So it's really exciting to see. We're going to see a brand new format even before we get our brand new format as well. So without further ado, let's cover a little bit on the City League Championships. I know we always want to talk about the Champions League, but I want to talk about City League as well, because it's a good way to kind of like get an accurate representation of what the meta was looking like. So the top 16 is no real big shocker. Charizard at 26.5%. It's very, very powerful, incredibly strong. It's definitely focusing a lot more on the barrel build. It's definitely the strongest one. As I mentioned before, it actually did perform the best at the Champions League. This is very, very powerful. Having the additional protection from drawing into things so you're not weak to an Iono. Yes, I know Pidgeot kind of gets you any card you might potentially need, but the Pipperel is really, really powerful. You kind of go for a slow approach. You can become a single prize or section and evolve into Charizard, especially when you need it. Whereas likes of your the Pidgeot build, it's a little bit more, you're focusing a lot more on 2 prizes, and your opponent can really go over the 2/2/2 prize very, very easily. She empowers at 10.7%. I love this deck, as you know here. I actually played it at League Cup this past weekend and actually tied quite a lot than I thought I did, but one of the most fun at League Cup I've played in a very, very long time. I generally think this is a very, very strong pick going into the new format. Lugia is definitely the big surprise outcome, making 8.4%. I do think it's a very, very powerful deck. It's very, very strong, especially with the Minccino and Cinccino action. Working well, yes, you are 2 stage 1s, but as it ended up, as you know, winning the Champions League here, Lugia is definitely back on everyone's radar. Arctina did pretty well as well the likes of Roy Moon and the Ancient Box as well. Lost Box being at 8.1%, it's kind of about average right now. Definitely didn't find, it was finding itself a little bit of the format, but right now, definitely people have gone back to realizing how strong the Paradox version is. Speaking of some Paradox one, we are seeing likes of Great Tusk and even Raging Bolt actually perform pretty well. For me personally, I think Great Tusk does need quite a lot to kind of keep going. I've been doing quite a lot of EUIC testing, getting really used to post-rotation. And Great Tusk, I was very much personally surprised by it, but it does take quite a long time to get set up. Similar to the likes of Raging Bolt. I do think that people are still working on exactly which is the best way to play it, but after like results from the Champions League here, it's very much difficult to know exactly how this deck is really positioned in the rest of the format, and even Golden Go got a 3.7%. What I want to mention about this briefly is because we never really see an accurate meta representation from the Champions League here. This is a good way to go around it. There were 616 results, so I think it's a pretty powerful one to go with, especially from the City Leagues. And seeing how powerful Charizard really is, it's a good representation, especially for the metagame. And if we just look at where it's currently being the top 6 percentage decks here, Charizard is again at the #1 spot. We can see here it's pretty much its win record is nearly double what's in second place. People really, really love Charizard. Definitely the big barrel build is the strongest one, and the one that I've seen definitely pop up a lot more. Lugia is definitely on the rise, definitely on the increase I've noticed throughout the entirety of this this bracket so far. This is what Minccino really has to offer. It's doing 70 times the amount of special energies attached to it. It's just so strong. Using single prize attacking option for Lugia just makes it feel stronger, feel better as well. We just see the return of Lost Box doing very, very well as well. As well as also the likes of Roy Moon and Block-Lax. Both of them coming back into the metagame really does feel natural. I do like Roy Moon. I think it's very, very powerful. People are opting to go back to Darkrai because it has that capability of bringing back your ACE specs. And that's exactly why I think Roy Moon is super strong. Whereas also the like of Stool. Block-Lax is definitely the most popular version to play it. This constantly because not many people are playing switching cards in all of the upper decks as well. Yes, we are seeing a lot of switching cards in the likes of Lost Zone engines, but likes of Charizard and Lugia, you're not going to play a ton of switching now. And Pao, you might play, the only switching out you do play is a counter catcher. Sorry, not counter catcher, prime catcher. So that's definitely something to be considerate about. And that Pao did fall down 2 places to 4th place. So I hope this gives a little bit of an insight about where the top 6 archetypes really are going in the City League. But here, let's go and talk about exactly what we're on about, the Champions League at Fukushima. So the players, we do think that was about 3,200, which is about average, I would say, for the Japanese tournament. This is a brand new format, so a lot more people will be playing this on decks. And we can see in 1st place, it was Lugia. 2nd place, we did see Arcues and Vulpix. Top 4, we did see in Bibarel, Charizard, and Blockplax. Sorry about that. Top 8, we saw 2 Arctinas, 1 Lost Zone box, and 1 Blockplax. And top 16, which have been revealed so far, we saw Ancient Box, Lost Zone Tina, which was a big surprise, Great Tusk Mill, Future Box, Charizard Pidgeot, as well as also a Paradox Lost Zone box. So, what can we analyze about this top 16 metagame? It actually shows that the metagame is quite more diverse. There wasn't as much Charizard as people kind of were dreading in theory, which is exactly what I was going with. Having Lugia win was definitely a bit of a surprise, but if we saw it here, it did an incredible run at the Champions League, and honestly, it's a very, very good pick, especially with having a single prize attacking option going into its one. Arceus Vulpix was a big surprise as well. Definitely reminds me a ton of EOIC, where we did see Alex Szymanski win with an Arceus Vulpix deck. Because we're seeing the rest of the format here, we can see the likes of Lugia, Charizard, even likes of Ancient Box, sorry, not really Ancient Box, the likes of some of these big Charizard archives, and even Pao. A lot of these ones have abilities. So kind of that denying the fact with Vulpix by attacking into it and walling from any Pokemon have abilities on it is super, super strong. Bibsard was the strongest version of Charizard to get into that top 4 placement. We do see that Zard Pidgeot version did do pretty well, again at top 16, still a very, very highly commended one, but seeing that Bibsard was the most performant one, it was the most talked about one, especially in the last couple of weeks going into this one, I'm not surprised it did get top 4. Blockplax getting top 4 and top 8, and even Great Tusk Mill getting top 16. It's good to see Control do it as well as it has been. I think we're in the best we've seen Control in such a long time. There are so many good avenues around this one. Blockplax gained quite a good sort of destructive capability cards in the likes of that hand clipper and even a supporter card, which lets you look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 item cards. We're in a very heavy item card format, so having that destructive capability is really, really strong. A big surprise, I would say, is definitely seeing Lost Tina get top 16. Because this deck isn't as strong as it wants, so not having Path to Peak, kind of losing that skate rope, which is what made the deck really strong, especially by bringing out the Cramorant to get an additional attack or poke into something. It's really good to see it did get that top 16 result, and I'm really excited to talk about our deck very, very soon. We have pretty much eliminated all of these ones except Ancient Box, which I'm a little bit ashamed about because I really, really wanted to see exactly where this deck kind of goes with it. But if we do get that before next week, I'm definitely going to be covering it. So let's jump into exactly where these lists are and kind of my thoughts and feelings on how I think these decks are positioned, especially going into a post-rotation testing. So let's see this Lugia deck here, and it did in fact win. One thing that's very fun here, Master Ball, I don't know if that was anyone's bingo card to be the first ACE SPEC to win an event since they kind of got released in black and white. It's really, really fun to see that one. And we see this list here, it is very, very strong. We do play a 3-3 line of that Minccino action. Do play that 2 copies of Snorlax as well. I really like this one because Lugia is going back to having colorless, very strong single prize attacking option. Snorlax, of course, does 180 damage. Plus, you can put the energy on there, which makes sure it doesn't fall asleep, which is very, very strong. I also like the Minccino to do 70 times the amount of energies attached to it. It's very, very, very powerful. So supporting option as well, we do see Jack do really well. Getting 2 evolved Pokemon, and you can easily discard them the likes of Ultra Ball. The Clap City as well is really powerful to get rid of that Luminion, and we do play a ton of special energies to really load up that Minccino to constantly be attacking with it as well. So that's one thing I really like about this deck here. It is a very, very strong deck. One thing I like about Serena as well, it's not only good to get that discarding factor, but also really good to gust around. We are seeing the likes of Arceus do really well, and lots of decks are opting to play Lumineon and Rotom, so it's a really good sort of way to kind of get those sort of effects into it. I do think this Lugia deck is very, very strong, very, very well proposed in the metagame. As we've been covering the last couple of weeks, we have seen the rise of Lugia kind of like rise up the rank to be a lot more popular. Okay, people are really catching on to how powerful Cinccino really has to offer, especially in a Lugia Arceus deck as well. So that's definitely something which is really exciting about. How do we now see the reign of Lugia kind of like go around with? Potentially, but I'm really excited to see exactly how the meta is going to shift now Lugia has in fact won. And the second place we do see is Arcues Vulpix deck. Like I mentioned before, the Vulpix deck gets that wall, so it's not damaged by any Pokemon with abilities. As I mentioned, there is a ton of Pokemon which have abilities just there. We have Snorlax and Lugia. They have abilities in the winning list as well. But obviously, they have attacking win with Cinccino. Vulpix is very good to kind of throw in the likes of Charizard and Pals. Rest of it, you do play a ton of destructive capability. Playing the likes of Heavy, Iono, and Judge, well, not heavy, but quite a few, is very, very powerful. The likes of Chiro as well as Charon are really powerful to constantly be looping up your Arcues and Vulpix, so you're not going to be getting heavily damaged as well. The Mist Energies are very good inclusion. This is so the likes of Roy Moon and Giratina don't one-hit KO them with their special attack, which I really, really enjoy. What I do like is we are playing a sports card, which lets you look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 item cards you may see in this one. This not only gives you hand knowledge, but also gets you getting rid of the item cards. Like I mentioned before, we're in a very, very heavy item card format, especially likes of Shein Power and any Lost Spot Zone Engine. Getting rid of some key switching cards as well could be really, really powerful. Lost City is really good to kind of get rid of those pesky Pokemon and making sure that they can't get them back from the likes of Super Rob. I think this is a very interesting archetype to get second place. I do think this puts on the radar that this is definitely an archetype which you should be testing quite a lot more, especially going into the format, or it could be a one-hit wonder. So it's definitely something to be considerate about. Now we are seeing the first Charizard list, which we're going to talk about today. The Bibzarg did get top 4, and there's nothing brand new and exciting to talk about for this one. We do see it does play like some Prime Catch from the looks of it, and also does play 1 copy of TM Evolution. We don't play the Devolution one, which definitely was a little bit of a surprise, or even only having 1 copy of the Evolution TM. I'm not personally a lot more fan of having the 2 copies of this one, but we do play the Cryptomaniac, and I love Cryptomaniac, especially teamed up with the likes of Bibarel. Because of that, you can stack your deck to get the 2 cards you desperately require, and you could draw them in with the likes of Bibarel. You have the likes of Countercatch, you have the likes of Super Rod to get rid of your Pokemon back in there. We have the likes of Clap Stadium, Vitality Band. These are really, really powerful cards which you can really kind of like utilize, especially the likes of Cryptomaniac. The heavy counts of Boss and Arvin and Iono is pretty much a common thing we've seen with likes of Charizard, and even having likes of Radiant Guard as well. It's really, really powerful secondary attacking option. We've definitely seen the more common theme in these Bibzarg lists, really kind of focus on having like the Entei or even having like Lumineon to really help set up. But this player ended up opting not to play that one and opting to go back to have Jirachi and Manaphy because they did really respect the likes of Sableye potentially, and also the likes of Greninja. So that's one thing I really like about this one. I think this is a very, very strong deck. For me personally, I'm definitely going to be testing out this Charizard top 4 archetype. It's definitely a bit different where we're seeing the likes of these ability ones as well. It's a little bit slower. We could see that one by only playing 1 copy of the Evolution TM. But that's something which is really interesting. It clearly did them very, very well, especially with the 3-1 split of the Charmanders, playing the promo one, and also a 1-1 split of the Charmeleons, the 90 HP one, which prevents damage counters to this one, as well as also the 100 HP one. I think it's a very, very powerful archetype. And just going back to the rest of the format here, we can see Arctina, which is kind of like where this deck is kind of built around trying to destroy Charizard. We're seeing the likes of Iron Leads, we're seeing the likes of a 2-2 line of Arctina. We're also seeing Lost City to kind of like slow down, getting rid of the Charizard so they can't get it. But we are seeing some very interesting cards in this list as well. The Lost City as well, I mentioned it's like a common theme, but we are mainly seeing like Pokemon League headquarters be the most common destructive supporter, stadium card we're seeing in these archetypes. Slowing down likes of Roy Moon needing 4 energies to attack. Heck, even likes of Donphan Mill, Great Tusk Mill needing 3 energies to do anything. It's very strong. I really like the Grabber in this one, given that hand knowledge as well. So it's also getting rid of a Pokemon pop at the bottom of their deck. It really, really helps that destructive capability that Arceus really requires, because you're not having Path to Beat, which is what this deck is so used to. I think that's a really, really powerful sort of item card to play with it. Maximum Belt, so you can use 1-hit KO factors with Giratinas and also with Iron Leaves as well for 2 ways to kind of like KO the likes of Arceus ones. So Arceus and Charizards. And then you can have an Arceus as well, kind of like KO potentially like your a Bidoof or even like sort of a Lumineon to try and get those 2 prizes that way. I think this is a very, very good deck. This is one of the lists to get top 8. Unfortunately, the other one hasn't been revealed yet, but this one here is already very, very unique. With having the Churro, with having a way to look at your opponent's hand multiple times to have that destructive capability. Could this be the best way to play Arctina? Definitely something to be seen. Now we're going into the last top 8 list, which is the Block Lax one. And this is a very interesting build indeed. The Chi-Yu I've noticed is a lot more common we've seen in most archetypes right now. Kind of like getting that discard of factors as possible, trying to out discard the likes of the Great Tusk Mill, and even in general, applying that pressure as well. The Marwell as well to get some cheese. That way, with Temple of Sinnoh, because people probably respected them, the likes of Jet Energy and even the likes because of the likes of how powerful things were Lugia, it's really slowing them down in that way. We see the rest of it, we do have quite a lot of hand knowledge by having 2 copies of Erica's Invitation and 3 copies of a supporter. I'm blanking on its name, sorry. The one that likes to look at your hand and discard 2 item cards. The Penny Loop is very good. Misfortune Assist as well as also Arvin to get any of your cards as well. Hero's Cape is very, very powerful, especially making sure even your likes of Chiyu can have 290 HP and Snorlax have 250. It's very, very powerful. What I love so far, we've seen a ton of different variety of ACE specs we've seen in the top 8. That's one thing which I really enjoyed about. A lot of people were scared that we are just going to constantly just be seeing Prime Catcher after Prime Catcher, Prime Catcher. But yes, Prime Catcher was in the second place list, but we're seeing it evolve in other ways as well. We saw Master Ball, we've seen Hero's Escape, we've seen Maximum Belt. That's one thing I really like about the variety right now of decks we have to offer. There are so many different decks as well, and that's one thing I generally love about this new format. And honestly, it's the best we've seen Control in a while. So let's look at this start of top 16, and we're seeing them Lost Tina do actually very well by getting top 16. We are seeing it definitely is evolving to really help you in that Charizard matchup. Having that Iron Leaves is a really good inclusion because you can easily pair up like some Mirage Get, or in theory, just like put it straight into the active spot to kind of like get that easy KO on that Charizard. Because we are a Lost Zone deck, you've got to play a ton of recovery cards like Super Rod, so you can kind of shuffle it back in. So you don't need to rely on like some Maximum Bell. We can have the likes of Prime Catcher, which works well with Comfy and works well with that Gusting effect to get those Charizards in play. Because we don't have that good stadium card in play, we don't have that path to peak, we can really open up the decks for a little bit more options. We do play that switch, the tool card, which lets you have a free switch out. We do play less battle VIP passes, so we can play more other ways of aggressive cards as well. Having likes of Lost Vacuum, having Counter Catcher, having likes of Buddy Poffin, and also having a more supportive variety can really help this deck flow just a little bit more. I do think this deck isn't as strong as it currently is in our formats, especially in post-rotation, but getting that top 16 result is definitely put on the radar now, and people will probably be testing this deck a little bit more. Great Tusk Mill, the deck which I actually really like, definitely need to test it a little bit more, did do very well by getting top 16, and a very interesting deck as well. We do play 2 copies of, they did play 2 copies of that the skateboard, which lets it have free retreat to any Pokemon which have 1 retreat or less, but also does play Comfy. So you might go, Charlie, why on earth is Comfy in this deck? Well, it's perfectly because it's a really good draw factor in this archetype. So it also can work very, very well with that new tool card to give out that free retreat option. We even play the likes of the supporter card, which lets you look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 item cards. That can be very, very powerful in this Great Tusk Mill. But from my testing as well, you've got to constantly be drawing into it. You want to be attacking with your Great Tusk Mill, discarding 4 cards as well. So you want to have that heavy supporter count. We do play here. We've cut down to nearly, we've seen mainly 3-3 split of Power Pad and the Super Rod, but we're going down to a 2-2, really valuing that we can kind of like go for this deck as well. Does play the Pidgeot, does play the likes of Mimikyu. So I do like this deck as well. I think it's a very, very powerful one. You can see here, it's very streamlined to try and like get out that Great Tusk and try and get that big discarding effect as early as going second. So I do think it's very, very strong in that sort of capability. It does play Big Charm. So the Great Tusk only has additional 50 more HP, unlike the likes of Future Boost. Sorry, the Ancient Booster Capture Energy gives it additional 10 more HP than we're kind of used to it on. But that the charm can also go on likes of not Giratina, likes of your Pidgeot, as well as also your Mimikyus and Greninjas. So definitely something to be considered about as well. I do like this deck to get top 16, and definitely we're going to see it kind of like constantly thrive in this metagame going forward. Lost and Paradox box got top 16, and there's not really much to really talk about. This deck is very much where we're seeing it kind of go. We are seeing the likes of Roman, Iron Hands, and Raikou be our main attacking option. I do like the likes of an Iron Bundle for that disruptive capability, and even having the Priceless Punch as a really good attacking option for your Cramorants in the late game. What I do like, we are still playing that skateboarding to give any of your Pokemon pretty much free retreat, like your likes of your Cramorants, Comfeys, and Greninjas, which is a very good one. Having that pivot out is exactly prevalent for your Paradox box. I think it's a very, very strong archetype. We are playing a ton more switching cards as well. Don't have the Escape Rope, which is obviously is a big hit to this one as well, but we are playing a high count of Super Rods, so you can streamline your attacking options and kind of get them out again to the likes of your Mirage Gates. I think this is a very, very fun archetype. I think it's a really good one, potentially the best way to play Lost in Box as of right now, because you have a variety of different attacking options. Iron Hands to kind of like get additional prize card, Roaring Moon to like instant KO anything, and Raikou for that drawing factor as well to also do potentially 220 damage. This is a very, very strong deck, especially going forwards, even for your testing option as well. And kind of finishing off, let's look at this Charizard Pidgeot build. It did in fact get top 16, and it's definitely a little bit different where we're seeing most of the Charizard Pidgeot builds go. Why is that? Well, it is playing the likes of Hero Cape. Hero's Cape gives Charizard pretty much effectively 430 HP. Nothing is one-hit KO in that unless they are playing the likes of Star Requiem or Royal Moon's Friendship Gouging. It's very, very much not going to be as common as we might seem. We are seeing still the heavier Arvin and Iono count and boss, which are very much common where we're seeing the likes of Zard Pidgeys. The rest of it is very much straightforward, bog standard Charizard, but I think it's a really, really good take for this one. I do like the Collapse Stadium to get rid of those pesky and Rotums and Luminums after they've kind of like done their value, and also Lost City as well, kind of getting rid of those Iron Leaves, which is exactly what this deck wants to do. It wants to get rid of the Iron Leaves because that's exactly the whole purpose of Iron Leaves right now in the format game is to get those big one-hit KOs on Charizard. So kind of like having that, I really, really like that inclusion. Also playing the likes of 2 counter catchers, which is really good because you are going to go behind in prizes just a little bit because you are going to be playing a single prize at the start. Once you hit the big one-hit KOs, then you can kind of like carry on and streamline your attacking options that way. So that is the breakdown of the top 16 list that I've kind of revealed. That's 9 out of the top 16. And exactly what can we kind of take away from this one? Is Lugia a threat to the metagame now? I do think so. If we saw the rest of the deck here, we can see Lugia kind of does really well against everything. I definitely want to talk about Lugia in more details, potentially this or next week. Will the meta start to shift away from Zard? We saw Zard get top 4 and a top 16, which generally was a bit surprising. It was labeled BDIF. We expected a lot more around this one, but a lot of people respected Zard enough to play other archetypes. We saw Control do really well, which is a deck which Charizard can really struggle against. And we also should people really play Arcues now. We've got 2 placements in top 8 as Giratina and 1 placement in second place by that Arcues and Vulpix deck. It is a very, very strong pick right now in the metagame. It's very good destructive ability. It works well against Charizard. And also Vulpix gives you so many options to kind of stop the likes of being attacked by any Pokemon with an ability. It was a very, very exciting Champions League. And I really, guys, hope you enjoyed this metagame analysis from me. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below what deck surprised you that actually did really well. For me personally, it's definitely the Arceus Vulpix one, because I did think that Lugia would do really well, especially after how powerful it's been performing in the City League events. If you enjoy this content, I do this video once a Monday, as well as also deck profiles as well. I'm going to be breaking down Arceus and the kind of the best winning lists I've been playing in Japan. That should be out on Wednesday. Hope you guys enjoy the content, and I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.